Hi, my name is Jen Strauser. I'm a quilt and textile artist living in northern New Jersey. I am here to talk about my piece Sweet Surrender, which is in Quilt National 2025. I am a first-time Quilt National participant, and the whole time that I was waiting to go see my quilt hanging, from the moment I got the acceptance note until the minute I turned around the corner and saw my quilt hanging, I assumed there had been some kind of mistake. Because I don't consider myself to be a serious artist most of the time. Most of the time I'm having fun. And to find out that my fun stuff is something that other people are interested in was shocking. But anyways, I started quilting in 1999. I had a child at the time, a toddler, and I needed something I could control. At no point in my son's life have I been able to control him from the minute he was born until now when he's 28. I decided fabric was going to be the thing that I could control, which most of the time I am in charge with the cotton. Not always, but most of the time. So 1999, I started quilting. I loved it. I wanted to explore quilting as much as I could. I tried all kinds of techniques. Most things caught my attention, got tried. I like to say I've done it all, but there are things that I've seen that I have not done because they didn't look like fun to me. But in 2021, I discovered Kawandi style quilting, actual Kawandi quilting. The difference between Kawandi quilting and Kawandi style or Kawandi inspired is that Kawandi quilts are made by women of city culture in India. Everything else not made by them is Kawandi inspired. Things that excited me about Kawandi when I learned about it were that the quilts are made from the outside in. There's no piecing of the tops. Everything is quilted together. Let's see what else. It's lots of scraps. It's meant to be sustainable. It's, you shouldn't go buy a lot of fabric to do your project. You should use what you have. Although that's me. That's not the rule. The traditional quilts made by the city women are used with fabrics that they have that are worn out, sari and things like that, that they're using up to make blankets. They're recycling. And I love getting back to that foundational aspect of patchwork quilting, that it is meant to be recycling, not just making. So I started quilting or making Kawandi pieces by hand, sometimes by machine, in 2021. I've made bunches of them. Initially, I started out just pulling from my scrap basket, making them all random. But random has never been something that I liked. I've never been a fan of just pull it out of a brown paper bag and sew it together. I really like to have something happening with color flow. That's my favorite, is moving colors around. Not always a rainbow, but often a rainbow. But I started to get tired of that random look. So since I'm making my own thing, that's what I did. I started changing. So for Sweet Surrender, my inspiration was a sunset image. I'm very fortunate. My husband takes beautiful pictures. I take functional pictures. He takes artsy ones. It's a good partnership. For this piece, I set up my backing and my batting on my long arm and laid out a selection of sunset colors in the way that I wanted the fabrics to run through the quilt, so that I had kind of landmarks as I was working around it. I could see I wanted more pinks this here, I wanted more burgundies there. And you can see my layout image here. This is my piece as I'm getting ready to work on it. And here is a picture of me with my fabric pull. I am a maximalist as far as numbers of fabrics in quilts. I'm also a huge fan of the idea of a charm quilt. I love the idea of a quilt where no fabric is repeated twice. I don't have that much fabric, unfortunately. So this project was going to be fantastic anyways, just from all the colors I picked, in my opinion. As I was working, I listened to the little voice that says, what if? I used fabrics that are not typically used in patchwork quilting. I had some linen, although linen is not quite as exotic as it has been in the past. I also have, in there, I have silks. I have velvets. Velvets are tricky. Velvets, I am not in charge with the velvet, I have discovered. You can stitch through it. It makes gorgeous texture. It also wiggles all over the place. So worth it, but a pill. When I was working on this, so I do a lot of my stitching outside if I can. If the weather cooperates, I go outside to sew. So I was in my backyard. I was listening to the birds singing. It was beautiful weather, just, you know, in the 70s, lots of breeze, very nice out. I could smell the honeysuckle blooming in the woods around me, and I could hear all the birds singing. And I definitely was feeling guided by a bigger energy in my creativity. And every stitch that I was working on my Kawandi was feeling good. Everything that I did felt right that day. And I thought to myself, I don't have the right fabric to go from, you know, this orange to that purple. I wanted something else that I didn't have in my stash. So I thought, what if I made my own fabric? And the way that I decided to do that was with a little collage. I decided to take a little piece of background and layer other colors onto it. My first one was a flower. Flower was okay. Flower didn't make me real excited. The second one I did was a landscape, and I'm sitting in my backyard looking at, I had a view of a lake and there was mountains on either side, so I did a landscape. That came out perfectly. And what I did was I just did a little collage and then I stitched it down raw edge, and this is what I came out with. Something like this, not this exact one because the exact one's in the quilt, but it was this kind of process. And it just worked. It worked, and I think that is what has elevated my piece, Sweet Surrender, up to be accepted into Quilt National. I really think that those little bits in there are what took it to the next level. And I hope you get to see the quilt. I hope you get to see the exhibit. I'm still a little shocked that my quilt is in there with all these other magical pieces.